Now, in other news, a brand new political poll released in Israel, and it seems that the Likud party, under former Prime Minister Netanyahu, is still winning out as the largest force in Knesset. Joining me with more live from the Knesset is Likud party Knesset member and former Deputy Health Minister Yoav Kish. Knesset member, thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you. Now, according to the new poll, Likud is earning about 36 seats, Yesh Atid coming in second place with 17, and then the totals from coalition to opposition coming about 53 for the coalition, 60 seats for the opposition, 7 under the joint Arab list remaining independent. What do you make of these results?
It is very simple. We see that the opposition today is 50% of the people, and we see that the party of Prime Minister Bennett is almost finished, as well as the party of the Gideon Saar, Tikva Hadasha, which is not even above the minimum percentage of to become a party. So we see that the people of Israel support the opposition. The people of Israel see that this government is very bad for the future of Israel, and they are actually voting against it. Unfortunately, we don't have elections today, and the Knesset is still on its own structure, but there is no public support for this corrupt and failure government.
Well, so Knesset member, with all due respect, don't you take these results with a pinch of salt? Because polls aren't exactly the most exact.
Well, you see, we are in the opposition, we are 53, we're growing to 60. The government today is 61, they are dropping for 53. So it's, of course, a process of a huge change in public opinion. I think they see the failure of this government in the corona treatment, in the economic issues, in the international and political issues, and I think that they are losing the public support. We see it very clearly on the last results of the polls.
So would you and the Likud or other members of the opposition, would you be willing to call for a vote of no confidence based on these results? Are you that confident in this poll?
The way it works in Israel is that the seats in the Knesset are the one who decides. And even though they're losing public support, they can still stay in power. That's what I said. They're losing even the absurd is that the more they are weak and the more they lose public support, the stronger they will try to stay and to avoid elections. So we still cannot defeat them on the Knesset itself, even though they're not passing bills, they have their own problems, but they still have the majority of 61-59.
You mentioned that you said it was unfortunate, really, based on this poll, that elections weren't happening again right now. But that would be the fifth.
I would like to have elections. I would like to have elections today, but it doesn't work.
That would be the fifth election in about 3.5 years. Do you think that, especially given the current economic crises in Israel, that would be the best thing?
I think that compared to this current government, of course, that going to elections will be much better. They're doing every possible mistake in every possible sector or field, in economics, in everything. They're ruining the country. It's a very bad government. Everybody sees it. That's why they're losing the support. And almost any field that you'll touch, as I said before, they are ruining the country. And I wish, and also the people of Israel, we see it in the polls, would like to have a new government. Unfortunately, this bad government still continue to govern.
All right, now you already mentioned the coronavirus in passing, so let's actually go to that as a topic here. It's a topic that you know pretty closely. Now, you were, the current government, rather, I should say, says that it's expecting to remove all restrictions by March 1st. Is the government doing the right thing?
Well, right now, we already paid a huge price in hard sickness and in death. I don't know if you know that, but the Ministry of Health of Germany said that if Germany would act as Israel, and he meant in the last few months, they would have another 500 of hundreds of deaths every day. So in Israel, we already made every possible mistake in the corona. The virus hit us very hard. That shouldn't have been the way to deal with the corona. Now, once the wave is dropping down, even though it should have been already finished many weeks ago, they are still paying a price of very hard sickness in the hospitals. And unfortunately, right now, there's not much to do. They made the mistakes in the last half year.
Well, you mentioned the death toll and you mentioned Germany, but there are many other countries, the UK, the United States. There are many places that are similarly opening up. Don't you think that Israel is right to at least look at the situation here as independent to a degree?
Let me clarify my things. Let me clarify. Of course, they need to open up today. I called myself to cancel what is called the Green Pass. There's no need for the Green Pass today. That's not the issue. The issue is the toll of death that this government cost us in the last 6 months by doing nothing. That's the problem. It's not saying today that they should ease. Of course today they should ease. There's no debate about it. They should have done it. The problem is that how did they, in the last 6 months, battle the corona? They didn't. Every minister pushed to his own direction. They wanted to vaccine the youth, then the Minister of Education said no. They wanted to increase treatment in hospitals. They didn't give money from the Ministry of Finance to the hospitals. So they made every possible mistake in the last 6 months. Right now, if you're talking, once the corona is dropped, to release all the restrictions, of course, that's not the issue. I'm talking about the death toll of more than 3,000 Israeli citizens that paid with their life because of this bad and really made every possible mistake.
But Knesset member, I mean, surely you must admit that, to be fair, at least half of those deaths were under your administration, under the Likud government.
I'm talking about the last 6 months, 3,400 deaths. Before that, we had more deaths, but compared to the world, we were relatively very low on the death rate. In the last 6 months, instead of being low rate death, we are now paying high rate death compared to the world, even though we have vaccines. They always compare the two governments. The first government, which I was part of, battled corona without knowing what is corona, without vaccine, total different fighting arena. They came to the corona. We had very little sickness here in Israel. We had vaccines. Everything was given to them on a plate of silver or gold. They made every possible mistake. The 3,400 people died and brought us from leading in the price of death per million capita. We were very high in the sense of a very safe state to a very bad state. That's what I'm talking about.
All right, now I want to move actually on to NSO now and the phone tapping scandal. Recently you said that in a democratic country, former state attorney Shai Nitzan and former police head Roni Alshikh would be under investigation. What changed really then from the Netanyahu government to now? Because last year around this time, under the Netanyahu government, police and the Shin Bet were using spy software for COVID contact tracing, just for an example, which was indiscriminate, arguably morally dubious, according to the courts, and according to reports, not very effective. Yet you insisted at the time that the cost of the program was reasonable and that we haven't seen the tool being used exploitatively. So again, what changed? And if you'd like to comment on your comments.
You're mixing few things. NSO is a total different thing than what we had to fight the corona. To fight the corona, we had a unique application that checked only locations and tried to find out to stop the chain of infection. I was supporting that tool at that time. I supported that tool today. I think it's a very good tool to stop
but
infection
even at the time it was
of
shown,
corona.
The courts showed, though, that even at that time, the police were using it relatively indiscriminately, and that it was hardly effective. There was a 7%. There was a 7% contact tracing success.
Both conclusions that you said today, I totally disagree. This application, which is very minimal in hurting privacy, almost none actually, saved hundreds of lives of Israel. That was proved. So for that price, I was willing to pay that. But NSO is a totally different thing. If you'd like, I'll talk about it, but
please.
let's leave it aside. Let's just finish this issue. This application, which is only checking to see if the phones were together, trying to put people in isolation to stop infection change, was effective, saved hundreds of lives, and I totally disagree with any other conclusion. Regarding NSO, and by this I have to finish because I'm running to vote in the Knesset. regarding NSO, that's a totally different thing. That's hacking into your phone, copying your life basically from that phone. And if you try to connect it also to ministers in the previous government, that's fine. Let's investigate everybody. Everybody should come and declare what he knew or what he didn't know, and no one should be free from this investigation. I myself believe that the real people who are in charge of the systems, which were Mendelblit as the general attorney, Shai Nitzan together with him, and El Sheikh, which is the chief of the police, are the direct people who should be investigated, and we need to hear their answers because I think they are the ones who are in charge.
All right, Knesset member Yoav Kish, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Iran. Toda rabah.
All right, now if you'd like to see the full and extended interview between myself and former Deputy Health Minister Yoav Kish, join us at iltv.tv or on the ILTV Plus app.